Aloha, and thank you for coming tonight. My name is Catherine Love, and I am the Assistant Curator of Contemporary Art. And it is my pleasure to introduce this conversation tonight between Lauren Hana Chai and HoMA Director Halona Norton-Westbrook in celebration of the opening of Lauren Hana Chai, The Five Senses. The Five Senses is on view through January 14th in our temporary exhibition gallery, and is part of HoMA's ongoing commitment to include exhibitions which highlight the work of Hawaii artists and to offer programs, such as this talk tonight, which provide opportunities for meaningful community discourse. This is Lauren's first solo museum exhibition, and it features a selection of works created over the past 9 years up through the present day. Born and raised in Honolulu, Lauren attended the Academy of Art University in San Francisco, graduating in 2015 with her BFA in painting. She is known for her active engagement in the arts community through exhibitions, curating, commissions, and art fairs, and her murals and colorful paintings, posters, and collectible stickers can be found around town on buildings and in stores, including our own HoMA shop. The first in her family to be born outside of Korea, Lauren was largely raised by her Korean grandparents. Personal family history and cultural connections to East and West provide context for explorations of cross-cultural identity, loss, healing, and femininity. Drawing from imagery found in Korean folk art, Buddhist architecture, and European art history, Chai creates richly layered, colorful compositions of figures, animals, landscapes, and design motifs. Symbols of longevity, health, and female sexuality, including voluptuous peaches, can be found throughout her works, as well as animals of special significance in Korean culture, such as her signature playful tigers. Lauren has exhibited at Think Space Gallery in Culver City, California, the Asian American Resource Center in Austin, Texas, the Korean Cultural Center in Houston, and at the Little Raven Gallery in San Francisco, among others. Additionally, in connection with this exhibition, Chai was invited to guest curate a selection of historical Korean objects from HoMA's collection. And we invite you to visit the HoMA Library beginning September 13th to view this display. Now it's my pleasure to welcome Halona and Lauren up to the stage. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here. We are so incredibly honored to have this exhibition of Lauren's and be able to share it with all of you and with our audiences. And also, I just wanted to say a very special thank you to Catherine Love, who just introduced us and was the co-curator of this exhibition. So we really appreciate you, Catherine, and you have done an amazing job. So wanted to kind of have just a free-flowing conversation with Lauren this evening. I'm going to ask her a few questions to sort of prompt her thinking, and then at the end we'll have some questions from all of you. So the first question, Lauren, I would really love to ask you is, when you sort of reflect back on your journey as an artist, how did you sort of come to the realization that art was something you wanted to pursue in your life? What were you making when you were a child? Were you sort of always sure that you wanted to be an artist, or did it develop over time? I'm curious to know about that process for you.
I was definitely always drawing and painting ever since I could hold a pencil, since I was a kid. And for me, I came to realize as I got older that it was kind of my form of escapism. The only place I can go that's just my way to express myself in a completely honest way. I think having grown up in a very traditional Korean household, I was definitely restricted in some of my expression, and there are some things that you just don't say or are frowned upon within that household. So a lot of that just kind of came out in in crazy dark paintings and drawings, especially in high school. But that's what I come to realize. I didn't really think anything other than, oh, I'm just gonna do art. There was nothing else that really piqued my interest, and I just knew like, it's, oh yeah, duh, that's what's gonna happen. I'm just gonna grow up and become an artist, whatever that means. I didn't fully know, but
Yeah. So when you were creating those sort of early works in high school, did you share them with lots of people, or did you kind of keep them close to yourself? Or because I feel like you have such an easy way of sharing with your audiences, and just wondering if that's always been part of how you approached your making.
I did some. I think more of well, stuff in my sketch. I have so many sketchbooks, and I would have a lot of just my personal drawings in there. I didn't really care to share those, but I also then would do drawings from life often, wherever I was, whether it's my classmates, my friends. I would go to Korea every year, and my dad was the manager of a bar, and my uncle was the musician, and so we'd spend a lot of time there as like this little elementary school kid, and I'd be drawing people at the bar. I just love faces. Faces were such a big thing for me, and all my dad's friends would be like, "Oh my God, draw me next! That's so cool!" And so those I would definitely share a lot more of. Yeah.
So then you went to art school in San Francisco, and it was when you were in art school that you, towards the end of your time there, that you started a series called Last Known Locations, and that there's 6 works in that series, and we have 3 of them featured in this exhibition. So I thought maybe you could talk a little bit about the Last Known Locations series.
Sure. So the last known location started in my senior year of art school. And it started out by wanting to explore more about what happened to my mom. So she went technically missing when I was 11 years old. We don't know what happened to her. Her side of the family don't know any information. The contacts, the addresses, phone numbers, they just all stopped. And so uh, my some background history. My mom and dad divorced when I was around 7 or so, and she remarried, moved to the mainland, and during that time had 3 other daughters as well. And we were still in contact. I saw their photos, I know all their names, and we were talking all the time. And then all of a sudden, it just stopped. And so I started to go to therapy at this time too, because there was a lot of problems coming out, of course, with like abandonment issues and all these things in college. And so I found old photos of her, found old VHS tapes of her and myself as a baby, and I started to obsessively just draw her face over and over again. And what's crazy was that she was almost my age at the time that I was drawing her, like in these photos and videos, and we look so alike. And it was kind of my way of getting to know her, even though I don't really know her, or trying to find a way to connect with her. And so then this developed into this first painting, Last Known Location of Los Angeles. And that started with an assignment where we had to digitally collage a photo reference to then paint from. And that's a method that has stuck with me, stuck with me ever since. So yeah, that was the first of the series, and I moved on to paint all our other locations. Yeah.
So let's talk about how that work then was like a catalyst for what came next, because that sort of brings us up to maybe right before the start of the pandemic or early pandemic, and you start developing this next series called Souls in Motion. And so maybe talk to us a little bit about that and how that is a departure from that earlier series and what you were exploring in that series. And maybe if we can point out when we see one of them on the screen.
Sure. Well, actually, these works here, those came directly after the Mom series. My colors got really bright during that time, and I was really doing more exploration into Korean heritage. I guess I moved from my own family history into wanting to learn more about Korea and what happened to Korea as a nation, and seeing things that I really resonated with within Korean culture and what it meant for me to be Korean and American. And so a lot of that was coming out, and it was mostly like a single figure or two and a background and some elements in there kind of interwoven in. And then with the Souls in Motion series, which is that painting there, starting to see, that was kind of the catalyst of all of it. And it started to take a big zoom out. And I really got into world building and kind of connecting to people in a more universal way. I got a little bit tired, in a sense, I guess, if I could, of painting just super personal. And, you know, it's such a heavy story too with my mom. And then about just me is how I felt for a while. And I was like, I need to back away from this. And so I went like the opposite and really zoomed out with the Souls in Motion. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that one of the things that people will get a sense of when they see this exhibition, I hope everybody's had a chance to see it or will see it right after this, is, you know, this is just basically 10 years of you working, but there's so much variety in here, and there's so much evolution that you've gone through as an artist, and also playing with different mediums as well, you know, ceramics and video as well as painting. And I love that you're sort of so open to that experimentation within your art. And I just wanted you to talk a little bit about that.
So I actually was super experimental with mixed media and playing around with different mediums in my last year of art school. It almost felt like I just wanted to go against whatever the teachers told me to do. I just wanted to go really abstract and throw paint around and make a mess. And then something happened, I guess, after graduating. I kind of lost a lot of that quality. I started to tighten back up in my work and just do oil paints. And I didn't fully understand why that was happening. I think looking back on it, I was trying to clean up a lot of the mess in my life. And so it showed up the way that I was painting, the way I was even applying the paint. And then I really missed a lot of that playful element. I think I was trying to find a way to bring that back, but not be such a like mess, but still have fun and be loose and playful is the main word here. And so I've just really recently through the pandemic found a way to kind of bring that back naturally. And I actually just stopped painting for like a year. And I just focused on everything else but painting, video art, ceramics, mixed media, everything. And it really helped me come back to painting in a new way and incorporate it all.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think something that, you know, comes out in the Souls in Motion series and continuing into your work now, right, is this influence of Korean folk art, sometimes of Renaissance painting. And I was wondering if you could speak to that and just the diverse sort of sources that you draw from for your inspiration.
The Korean folk art came after studying in school with more classical Renaissance painting. And it's such a complete opposite way of painting from the Renaissance painting. And I think I was really drawn to it as I was looking into Korean history. I'm so visual, so I found the artwork first. And I was like, oh, let me dive into that. Who drew these folk arts? What does this mean? What does it symbolize? And went on and on. And I love that it was done by the commoners. It was the uneducated people who drew these folk paintings. And it's called minhwa. And that minhwa work is way more raw and stylistic. And the brushes are super bold, the strokes and everything. And I really love that, like the wild tiger. And something about that, I feel like it really captured the Korean spirit. And so I just kept drawing styles over and over again. And I was also influenced a lot by Korean Buddhist temple architecture. We have one here actually in Pololo Valley, which is really pretty. You should check it out if you haven't already. But I love those patterns on it. So the patterns, as you can probably tell in my work, I'm also really attracted to symmetry. And that happens more and more progressively as my work developed and I got older. I just love the balance of things, and I kind of see it as how I'm trying to find balance in my own life from this chaotic early work. So yeah, a lot of that comes out of my work as well.
What are you really excited about in terms of the direction your work is taking? I mean, maybe to talk about this, I'm sure we'll pass the slide in a minute of your really large scale work that you created as the final work for this exhibition. But what are you excited about at this moment as you start to like look forward and what you're going to create next?
I have a lot of ideas already. We're gonna see what actually happens, but um, I I did start this final giant painting that's in the gallery in February, and it was a lot, and I'm very happy with it. I'm glad that Halona just like lit a fire under my ass. Was like, you got to do this, because it would have taken me a lot longer if you hadn't done that. So I'm super grateful, and I'm very lucky it came out good, or at least to the point that I like it. But I think I need a break from that, so I want to way simplify in my future paintings for now, and just kind of, yeah, I'm craving just wanting to do like a single subject, paint a single subject from my paintings, just pick one thing, and maybe even focus on one color for each painting as well. So like all the different yellows I want to use in one single painting, and really push how far I can take that, and then do another painting that's all the different reds. Um, but also, I think I do want to focus a little bit more on slice of life, if that makes sense, type of things, because I am also expecting a baby, and there's a lot of new changes happening in my life. So I've been taking photos like crazy of my belly and me and my cat and my fiance and all of that. So there might be some paintings with that subject matter.
Yeah. So can you share with people about like what your process is when you are creating? I think it's really interesting and good for people to hear.
So I always start out with a digital collage on Photoshop, and I just have files and folders on my computer saved of images that I'm just attracted to, images of my family members, of myself, of my friends. And I just, when I start out making a composition, I pick some images out and I just dump them all into Photoshop, and I just kind of mesh them all together digitally and see what works. And after a while, it turns into something that I'm like, ooh, this has potential. I want to try and paint this. And then I get to painting from it, but it always comes out looking pretty different from what I initially put together. So that's like the rough sketch, maybe, or like a draft of the painting. And then when I actually paint it, there's, especially in this final painting that I did with the large canvas, it was way more intuitive than my other paintings. I think also, as I was trying to find a way to bring back playfulness in my work, I was also trying to get away from the image a bit and not be like a slave to the image of my reference photo. And so there was a lot more fluidity and intuition that happened during this final painting process.
Yeah. So, I mean, over the months that Catherine and I have been visiting you in the studio and seeing, for instance, that large work come to life, it's been really interesting to see, as you say, like you have the reference photo, but then you start to deviate from it, and it seems like at a certain point you get enough, and then you just sort of abandon it, and then you're just sort of experimenting a lot with like, where do you want to push and pull the image. And I just think it's really beautiful to see, because kind of the just the intensity and the boldness that comes through in your finished works also is there in the process of how you create it. So it's really infused in everything that you do as an artist. It's something I really notice, and I think is one of the things that's allowing you to like just kind of evolve and continue to create at such a great pace.
It's good to hear. Thank you.
I want to open it up and get some questions from the audience, unless there's something else you want to talk about that we didn't touch upon right now.
No, I'm fine with questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
So questions from the audience?
Yes.
Yes. Where did you go to school in Hawaii?
Number one question locals ask other locals. I went to McKinley High School. Yeah, Tigers.
Did the tiger love start then?
Oh, no.
I mean, that actually reminds me of a question I wanted to ask you, which is, how do you feel that living and working in Hawaii is influencing your work? Or does it?
For a while, I didn't really put a lot of Hawaii in my work, and I think this is also synonymous with how I was born and raised here, and I really took Hawaii for granted for the longest time. And it wasn't until I left Hawaii for like 7 years, just being in the mainland, and I just kept missing home. I kept missing Hawaii, and I kept missing my family. I think a lot of that is tied in now with my work, which is more about family and just being in nature. And Hawaii is definitely different. It's different after having lived other places and coming back here. I think anyone can say that there's a difference living on this island. It's the energy of the island, it's the nature, it's healing. And I came back 5 years ago, and that was when I really needed some healing in my life. So I think all of that kind of enters into my work, and maybe not such an obvious Hawaii way, but it's there. Yeah.
Great. Other questions? Yeah.
So there's a painting up on the projector right now. I was just wondering, I really like how you rendered the mask as well as with it, like I'm assuming that's a sun behind it. So I just wanted to know, what was like your thought process behind that piece? What really made you think, yes, this is what want to paint on my canvas, this is the emotions I'm feeling right now while I'm painting it?
That one, I was really attracted to the mask. It's a bridal mask with like a traditional Korean dance. And so it's pretty common mask you'll see if you go to Korea or like any kind of tourist store in Korea. They sell it as well, but they would use this for performances. And I just thought it looked really ghastly, even though it's a bridal mask. It has this look to it, at least the way I painted it, I guess. And it's not obvious, but there are images that are referenced from North Korea. That's in the background, in the sky, and in the crowds on the bottom. It's super abstract, but there's a bunch of people that are doing like parades or some kind of gathering in North Korea, and it's a little ominous. I'm not really sure why. I mean, related to North Korea, yeah, but somehow the two just paired like that. And also, I later learned that the bridal mask and any kind of mask dance in Korea, which crosses over many other cultures too, but they would use it to kind of poke fun at like the rich people and the people who are oppressing them, because it was all commoners, and this was their way of being able to express themselves and not get in trouble. Because they have them, it's like a form of art, right? So I thought that was really interesting, and yeah.
We should take more questions, but I realized we didn't talk about the five senses.
Oh yeah.
And the table, the sensory table, and the inclusion of that in the exhibition. So I was wondering if you could just speak to that too.
Sure. The five senses, as I mentioned, I was seeking playfulness to come back into my life, and so that was during the pandemic. There was a time that I really wanted to just like touch and feel and taste everything and activate all my senses, and I really think it's a big part of human life, right? Is to have all your senses activated. And so as I stopped painting and started messing around with other mediums, I explored that, but I also found out that psychiatrists use this method to their patients, where they say leave like a couple oranges in the fridge, and whenever you get like an anxiety attack or something, you feel panic, grab the orange and start to like feel it on your skin, the cold texture, smell it, peel at it, rub it, taste it. And so you're activating your senses and therefore grounding yourself. So it's a very present experience, right? And so that's something that really resonated with me as well. And I wanted viewers to be able to experience that too.
And I think that is something that, just to say, part of what, really made your work stand out for me when I came across it was that sort of combination of being very present, being very alive in your sort of feelings of this moment, of your experience of this moment, and also that ability to sort of draw in influences from the past and from other places, right? Like we talked a little bit about the Korean folk art and the Renaissance painting. And then I think also the other thing that you're able to do so incredibly, which is just, you have this, I think, we've talked about in some of our conversations with the docents the other day, for instance, like the pink, right? I say that's like Lauren's signature pink, right? And it's just like very fun, and it's a pop of color, and it's joyous, and it's vibrant, just like she is. But then she also can easily sort of tackle really difficult, dark things in her painting at the same time. So the ability to sort of have that duality in your work. I mean, this work from the Last Known Locations that's on the screen right now. You know, I mean, at first, when you sort of don't know the context of that work, it just seems bright and light and fun, and then the longer you look at it, sort of this sadness or this darkness and the underlying themes are there and start to emerge. And I think that's like what makes so many of the things that you do really, really compelling. And it's a really amazing skill.
Thank you.
Other questions? Yeah.
When I don't know if it's like this, but if images are starting to come to you strongly and you're starting to put things together, you mentioned working from collages, when do you know that you have a series going? And what is that storytelling like for you?
That's a very good question. I don't really know sometimes, but I guess maybe I've gotten better at it over the years. In the beginning, I was kind of shooting in the dark a lot. I'd be like, oh, I'll put together this images and composition. Let's just paint this. And be like a singular painting, and I'll just move on after that, after I finish it. But I think after a while, I think it was after the Think Space Gallery in LA, after that show, I really started to think about my work in more of a larger series. Maybe it helped to have a show lined up and I had to think about it in that way. But then I started to really like thinking about it in that way too, because then it helps me stay with a certain idea or theme for a longer time and really flesh it out before I just move on and becomes this like all over the place thing. So I've just naturally started to develop that maybe more with right before Souls in Motion, I was doing this series for that show, which is called The Little Death. And so I kind of forced myself to, okay, let's have these like portraits of people or a couple of people and then this certain kind of background. And I just kept exploring, but it still developed naturally as I went on. And so, yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but. Oh, thank
I
you.
love them from the first time I saw them. They were very elaborate. Most of them were very elaborate. So I was just curious, do you sketch it all out on the canvas or do you kind of just attack it and say, okay, I'm going to start here and this is going to go here and build it as you go? Or maybe a little bit of both.
Well, I think a lot of my earlier Last Known Location works, I kind of just jumped in. And sometimes I still do that, just swatches of color. So I'll do, see everything broken down into just color and put color down and then slowly build out the form, almost like sculpting. For that last painting, I did do very loose drawing, loose sketch, and just kept it to mostly outlines of things, especially the big central figures. Everything else I kind of just added in later. Yeah.
It's really fun and the way you put it all together. Is there a lot of adjusting in the colors and the values as you?
Oh yeah, big time. It changes a lot as especially they've witnessed over the many studio visits. Lots of changes.
Okay, one more. The artist Bosch.
Yes.
He came to mind your first painting. I thought, oh, this is a fun Bosch.
Yeah, fun Bosch, yeah, I like that. Yeah, the very first Souls in Motion painting with the two dragons on the side, that was intentionally, I thought about Hieronymus Bosch while painting that, and it was kind of this Garden of Earthly Delights, of course, but whereas Bosch painted about fear, I wanted to paint about love, so kind of like the opposite in that sense, but I'm really inspired by his chaotic compositions and multiple figures.
Wonderful.
I don't have a question, excuse me, but I would like to say those of us that are colorblind, we would love a painting that's different shade of yellow.
Great feedback.
Yeah, noted.
Yeah.
Hi, it's more a question of my son. I haven't been able to really hear what he's asking, but I think he wants to know like how you see yourself maybe retiring from painting or from art. So I think the question is like, how you see yourself maybe, you know, later on life.
Oh,
on
future
your art.
me. Oh, I never think about the future. I don't know.
I think this is
Everything's
an
just-
artist for life.
Yeah, I don't think I don't see myself retiring from painting. Definitely not. Yeah, I'm just gonna keep on going. I don't think I can because, like I mentioned earlier a bit, art is definitely my outlet and a way of expressing myself. And if I can't have that, I'm gonna die. So I gotta keep going.
Yeah, in the back. I think the very first painting that I recognized your work was in Mori with the female figure, like the print. I think there's one in the museum
that's right.
So I was curious when that work was from and if it was related to the series that's on exhibit right now, or if it's something like completely different.
That was. Oh, the prints that are there, right? Not like original paintings.
The figure, like the figure that you see from the back, is that what you're talking about?
Oh, the muscles. Yeah. That was in 2017. It was before Souls in Motion, before Little Death. So I was in Texas at the time and exploring really about the Asian American as well as Korean American identity. And there's not so much of that in this show. There is one piece that's kind of similar, which is right after the last on location paintings. There's a small painting of a portrait and like a dragon coming up behind a woman's back. But yeah, that was specific to like a certain series I had. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't include everything. You know, there was more that she's just produced such an incredible body of work that there was so much more that we could have added. So there was some really, really great things like that that were edited. But yeah.
Like, if I can add one more comment, I was curious because if I remember it correctly, it was in Japanese writings, but I think you answered the question because it was from the Asian community and the mainland, I guess.
Yeah, that specific painting I can explain a bit was titled Otoko Masari, and in Japanese I learned that that's kind of like the word for tomboy in Japan, but it's in like a kind of negative light because in Japan they want you to be all the women to be much more feminine and soft and not really like masculine in any way. And so I painted my friend. She's this tiny Japanese woman who was like really strong. That's why the rippling back muscles. And she's like this, but she has a geisha that's being shed off her skin, and there's like this geisha on like a traditional cartoonish kind of geisha on the kimono that's crushing cherry blossoms and just kind of wanted to show a different light on that view of femininity in Asian culture.
Yeah.
Hi. Thank you so much for being here tonight. And your paintings, like in particular, like the Souls in Motion stuff, have this transcendental like quality to it. And so I'm curious about any sort of like states of mind that you are in when you're painting works like that. If you share any insight with that.
I don't know if I guess there's a certain point in painting that during the process it just becomes kind of very intuitive and very free flow. And that's actually something that I'm always chasing. Maybe I think many other people can kind of relate to this, whether it's I hear people who do like running and track also get into this state where they're just in a flow and it feels really good. Like less for me, it's less thinking and more just doing. Love point when I can get there, and so I guess that would be the only kind of like transcendental state while painting that can happen. Yeah, if that answers that.
But I also think you just have such an incredible mind and you're always interested in spiritual experiences, sort of studying and learning about psychology. And I think all of that really informs a lot of the work
Oh yeah,
too. And I always just so have looked forward to our studio visits because it's like, what's Lauren going to talk about today? Like, what's Lauren going to be interested in right now? And I think that that all feeds into those works too.
Yeah, big time. Mm-hmm.
Yes, maybe right here, and then we'll do the ones in the back.
Oh, thank you. I was reading about your ability to lucid dream, and I was curious if there's any recurrent environment or object that you explore in that space that shows up in your work.
So the question's about lucid dreaming.
Yeah, actually, one of them's in the gallery. It's the only one that has no figures in it, and it's the landscape with the red sky and sun and moon in there. And so this was happening for over the period of years for this one lucid dream. It's been happening since I was a kid, but this one in particular, I go to this place that's just this beautiful landscape, this valley and waterfalls and mountains and grassy fields, and I don't know how to purposefully get into this state, but I know that while I'm dreaming, it's a whatever dream, and then I'll realize that I'm dreaming. And so then I want to get to this place that I always go to. So I do it purposefully then. And it's always like, it sounds really weird, but it's always a weird way to enter into this space. So sometimes I'll open up like an ice cooler and stuff myself in there. And I always have to go through something very claustrophobic, or like it's this tiny hole in like a giant stone wall and I have to crawl in. I'm like, oh God, I just bear with it a little bit and I'll get there. Weird stuff, but then I'm there and then it's beautiful and I get to, it just changes over time and I build upon it. It actually stopped. I stopped having those and I don't know what happened. I was really sad. I'm like, where did those dreams go? They've never come back. But then I started painting it. So I was like, yeah, it's in my paintings. So it's fine.
In the far back.
I was asking about the dreams, but then I was thinking about, okay, so she dreams in color. Do you ever dream non-colors?
Good question.
Yeah, actually, I don't think I have a lot of non-colored dreams. It's always pretty colorful, or if anything, it might be grayed out if it's like a stormy nightmare. I don't know, but not really like zero color. I like my color, I guess, even in my unconscious state.
Thank you.
Hi, I noticed that humans are very realistic, but the animals are more real, like more cartoonish. What's your explanation on that one? Why humans so realistic, but the animals more so realistic?
As I said, as I was younger too, I was always drawn to faces and always drawing people from life, and I just love faces. I think there's so much in a face and so much that can be expressed in it, and so I just can't help myself but render out faces and really capture that. Sometimes I get more fluid with the smaller figures in my paintings when there's multiple figures, and I kind of just have fun. And it's not about the identity then. It's more about just the human form at that point. And so it really just depends on what I'm drawing. And then the animals, I just have a lot more fun, I think, painting them all wild looking, just like the Korean folk tigers. And there's a lot of expression there. I guess I'm always seeking that expression, whether it's with like the face or the animal and how it's painted.
Yeah, over here.
Speaking of the animals, can you tell us about the deer? I really love it.
Sure. So that was in Korean folk art a lot as well. And there was a lot of different myths and symbolism behind it. Sometimes they were painted in pairs and then painted and sold to newlywed couples for like a happy marriage or something. And there's like this other legend about an all white deer that's like 1,000 or something years old, and it's reached this spiritual level of I don't know, but I just found them really fun to paint. They're a lot of fun to paint, and I liked how red they were. It seems like a combination of fox and deer, and they're just really interesting to me to paint, so I like them. Yeah, they got personality, definitely.
Right behind, the question right behind.
So I know that tigers are definitely a recurring theme within your work. What are the characteristics of the tigers that you feel like you connect with the most?
Well, it's the Korean national animal, and there's definitely, I think, just a lot of pride behind the tiger in Korean culture. And actually, that painting that just passed was about this, but the Korean tigers, they were slaughtered when Japan took over in like 1910 to 1945. And so they were slaughtered because they wanted to not just hurt the people, but or they wanted to hurt the pride of the people, the pride and joy of Korean people. So that was like a quick way to do it as well. And so I think they're like completely extinct, maybe one alive, I don't know, but I thought that was really sad when I first learned about that history. And they're so beautiful. They're like mountain tigers, Siberian tigers ish, but the Korean tigers in folk art, they're always drawn. They're drawn in many different ways. They have a lot of personalities in the Korean folk art too. Sometimes they're a little like dopey and funny. Sometimes they're really fierce and I love that both looks. And so I kind of use that in my paintings for whatever purpose, whether it's painted as like a guardian for what is surrounding or painted as just like this friendly tiger that also looks kind of like a cat. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like we had a question right here. Yeah.
I'm curious, who do you consider your community or your mentors? Like what traditions or what schools do you feel like you emerge from? Or who are your mentors? Who are your inspirations?
Well, definitely Bosch was an inspiration. I think for me, a lot of the inspiration also comes from a lot of just anonymous artists, because a lot of the old Korean art, we don't know who did them, but I look at it a lot. I look a lot at the Korean folk art, and then like the Buddhist monks who painted the temples as well. I find that so inspiring that there are these monks, and then they just tag team this temple and paint all these amazing, perfect patterns, and so those are very inspiring to me. Yeah.
Well, yeah, all the way in the back.
In Souls in Motion #9, I think all of the figures are really beautiful, have appeared together, and they have all of these colors. But then there's one sort of child figure who's all in grayscale and they aren't around anybody else. So I was wondering if there was a specific significance behind that.
Souls in Motion 9. Was that the one with the yellow border? Okay. I think you might be talking about, it's a little baby that's like naked, right? Yeah, that's painted from an old photo of my dad when he was a baby. He was like this little pudgy baby, and I didn't really have a specific reason as to why he was kind of on his own, but I just wanted him there. I just really like that image of him. Yeah, just more family in my
Is it in that one?
paintings. This one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a tiny little dot all the way on the left side up there.
Oh,
I guess
yeah.
He's with a tiger and a bunny, I guess, so he's not completely alone, but
Yeah.
The colors you use are so vibrant and incredible, and in a few conversations we've had, you kind of expressed that in your painting, you are able to paint two pieces simultaneously. Can you talk a little bit about how the colors and how that happens?
yeah, so during the pandemic, I discovered neon oil paint made by this company called Gapka. And since I make a lot of my references digitally, when you look at the paintings or the image reference on the monitor, it's sometimes so much brighter than what I can achieve with oil paint. And so I was constantly searching for like the brightest of bright, always, because I loved that electric look, that neon look. And then after I discovered the neon oil paints, it also came with the added bonus that it activates in blacklight. And so as I paint it, I would every so often turn on the black light, turn off the lights, turn on the black light, and look at it in a completely different view. And it's really, really trippy. And it really is like painting two paintings at once, because then I'll adjust like, oh, this spot needs more of that neon when I turn on the black light. And so, yeah, I was thinking of both while painting.
I'm looking for that painting that we have. Here we go.
Oh, yeah.
So that's with the black light, and that's without. Yeah.
I loved seeing that you included your birthday card to your grandfather in your great big giant beautiful painting. What was your motivation in including that, or inspiration?
So with that painting, that birthday card's in the sky, along with a bunch of other signs and different artifacts as I kind of see it, and it's uh, a number of things. I see the sky in my paintings as like a like where my ancestors are, and they're giving me guidance from above and sending me different messages, and also just kind of like a timeline history of my family and different things up there. And so I was really lucky that my grandpa just saves everything, and he showed me that recently, and just he's getting older now, so he's just passing a lot of things on to me. Gave me like our family tree too that he like hand wrote in calligraphy and everything. It's all these precious things, and he's like, no one else cares about these but you, so I'm gonna give them to you. You better take good care of it. And so yeah, I put that letter there, and for those who don't know, it said something along the lines of like happy birthday. When I grow up, I hope I can be good at making like you. I thought that was funny, so I put that in there. And then on the other side is actually another letter, which is harder to read because it's way up there and it's in Korean, but that's a letter that my grandpa saved from my mom, who gifted them like a pretty mug or something. So it's saying like, please use this pretty mug well for Parents' Day. Congrats on Parents' Day. And I like that she had a letter to them and that he saved all of it. So I just wanted that mirroring each other in there.
Other questions?
So first off, congratulations on your engagement and the baby. But relative to your work, do you think you'll represent themes of motherhood, warmth, and acceptance and love for future projects?
I think so, just because the record so far it's all been just a reflection of what's going on in my life at the time. So that's probably gonna pop up. It already started with that final painting, the giant one. As I was painting it, I put in my ultrasound in my belly, and I painted the fetus in there. It's hard to tell in here, of course, unless you go up close to it. But yeah, that's probably gonna pop up more. And I think about it a lot. Naturally, I know every mother to be thinks about their own mother too, if they're pregnant or something. But I think about it so much about my mom too, and what kind of mom I want to be. And so I'm sure it'll come out a lot. Yeah.
You're going to be an awesome mom.
Oh, thank you. I hope so.
You are. Yeah.
That previous question kind of reminded me of something I've heard in Korean, like culture. Like there's some sort of like thing where a mother, when she's pregnant, will have a dream about her pregnancy, and the baby will appear to her as an animal. And I know a lot of Korean families have like stories where the mom is like, oh, my baby was a dragon and he gave me strength or something, or my baby was a bear and he protected me. I was just wondering if you had your baby dream yet, and if you have a spirit animal for the baby, or if you're describing one.
I actually didn't have the dream, but my grandma did, and the dream is called Temong, and she had it before she even knew that I was pregnant. So it was still a secret then, and she dreamt that it was going to be a girl, so it predicts like the gender as well. And we actually just found out like a couple days ago it's a boy. She was wrong. So whoops. But yeah, never came to me in my dream. But
was there any animal?
It was just rows of trees with blossoming red flowers, and so that represents a girl, but maybe not always.
I just want to say thank you guys for these really good questions. This is like more questions than any audience has ever asked, and I really, really like it and appreciate it. So thank you. Yeah, another one.
Well, just on your last statement of what your grandmother saw, the trees, will you put that in a painting?
I actually was thinking about that while I was painting the final painting too. I have these 2 trees. They're pink flowers though, but I put them, of course. So I did think about her while painting those. Yeah.
Any other questions? Final question. Yes, Catherine.
Well, it's more of a announcement, but I just wanted to let people know that we are going to be having some gallery for September. We'll have a blacklight viewing weekend, September 15th, 16th, and 17th. And in October, Lauren's going to be doing a workshop as well. So check out our website for more information.
Thank you, Catherine, and thanks to all of you, and most of all, thanks to Lauren. Thank you.